The Indianapolis Colts can turn Anthony Richardson into the next Josh Allen with these 5 moves, and the last move is the single most important move to unleash Richardson's potential and have him turn into the MVP caliber player his talent says he can be. Anyone who's watched Anthony Richardson play football knows he can either be one of the most fun players to watch in football or one of the most frustrating players to watch in football. His size, speed, arm strength combination suggests he should be a truly elite level player, but he just hasn't had the success because of a lack of experience, injuries, accuracy, and decision-making so far, reminding some, including myself, of how a young Josh Allen looked when he was in his first couple years in Buffalo. So how can the Colts get that potential out of him? That's what I'm here for, and it requires parts on all sides of the team and both sides of the ball. However, let's start with the exact same position group to maximize Richardson's talent. The first move the Colts need to make to turn Anthony Richardson into the next Josh Allen: sign Trey Lance or Jameis Winston in free agency. Colts GM Chris Ballard said at the ending of last season that, quote, "I didn't do a good enough job of creating competition on the roster for it to achieve. There's got to be an uncomfortability where if you don't play, you could get benched." And he also said he's open for a quarterback competition and is going to add a starting quarterback. Well, here's some uncomfortability and competition right away. Either option, you're giving yourselves a competition. The first option is with Trey Lance, a former top 5 pick. He's got all the tangibles: size, speed, arm strength, athleticism that pretty much everyone has already given up on as a player. Sounds familiar, right? Not only is he the ideal backup for the Colts as far as scheme goes and being able to keep the same offense in place between the starter and the backup, but I bet Trey Lance can relate to what Anthony Richardson is going through and has gone through already so far in the NFL better than anyone else on the planet. There's no veteran presence in the QB room in option number 1, and that would be unfortunate for Anthony Richardson. That's where if you think Jameis Winston is a better fit from a veteran presence perspective and from I could see him throwing for 500 yards with those receivers perspective, I get it. He also has that number 1 overall pick experience and it not working out with his original franchise, so he can give Richardson advice on that front and help him maximize his potential. But I personally like Trey Lance going in there to help Anthony Richardson and the Colts more than anyone else in football. But there's more ways to help a young quarterback than just on the offensive side of the ball, so let's go to the other side of the ball. The second move that'll turn Anthony Richardson into the next Josh Allen. We're just going to rework this entire defensive line. We're going to cut Raekwon Davis and Tyquan Lewis. We're going to sign BJ Hill to a 2-year, $20 million deal, and we're going to draft defensive lineman Jordan Burch in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. I specifically said rework because this unit isn't bad, but it does need some tuning up. This unit was simply not effective last year, just 25th in the NFL in sacks, but I think the names and potential of the D-line is great for Indy. Off the edge, you got a couple of your most recent first rounders. The 2021 first rounder and last year's sack leader Kwity Paye had 8 sacks. In 2024's first round pick Liatu Latu, who had just 4 sacks in his rookie year last year, but Latu impressed and is poised for a breakout season in 2025. He ranked 31st of 119 qualified edge rushers per PFF. As for the interior, we've got a couple of the league's best. DeForest Buckner had another great year, 6.5 sacks, and was ranked the 7th best defensive lineman in football per PFF. And Grover Stewart continued to be great in the run game and was ranked the 13th best defensive lineman in football. That's a solid unit for 2025. But as we saw with the Eagles in the Super Bowl run last year, this unit needs to be deep as well, and that's where we'll do some turnover. There's been some talk about potentially cutting Samson Ebukam coming off his torn Achilles last year, even though he led the Colts the year before in 2023 with 9.5 sacks. That would make some sense considering you'd save $7.5 million against the cap, but I think that's someone they want to keep based on the upside when he's healthy. Tyquan Lewis, however, is one of the two I think they should cut. He's been good when healthy, but he just hasn't been healthy. Torn patella tendon in each knee in 2021 and 2022. He played all of 2023, but then missed 7 more games in 2024, and you could save $4.5 million if you cut him. I think Raekwon Davis is as good as gone up front for them as well. He was terrible last year. Just 15 tackles in 17 games and was really bad against the run. PFF had him ranked as the 6th worst defensive lineman in the league last year, and if you cut him, you save $6.5 million as well. That sounds like a no-brainer for the Colts. So those 2 moves create $10 million in cap space for the Colts, who sat at 18th in the league prior to those. Now, with the space you just cleared, let's go get another D-line piece in free agency and sign former Bengals D-tackle BJ Hill. And Hill is an immediate fit for the Colts defense because of their new DC, Lou Anarumo, who coached Hill in Cincinnati the last 4 years. Hill's been a good player in the league for a long time now. Even last year on the Bengals defense that wasn't great, Hill stood out. He ranked 26th versus the run last year per PFF and 30th overall among all defensive linemen in the league. That would benefit a defense that struggled versus the run last year. Hill comes in and fits the scheme immediately, forming a potential formidable D-line in Indy. And by the way, the last time the Colts were Super Bowl champs, the defense wasn't great, but Freeney and Mathis were wrecking games for opposing QBs. Now it's the longest of odds that Latu and Paye turn into anything close to Freeney and Mathis, and AR turns into anything in the realm of Peyton Manning Manning, but that situation shows how valuable a pass rush and a good overall D-line can be to a quarterback. I also like potentially drafting the best available D-lineman or DB with their third-round pick. A name that I like a lot in that range is Jordan Burch, the defensive end out of Oregon. Burch is a freak athlete at 6'6", 295. His athleticism didn't match his production, however, which is why he could slip this late, but with a talented and veteran defensive line surrounding him in Indy, I think Burch could thrive there as well. But you just heard me mention DBs for the Colts, and their secondary needs some work as well. And that leads me to my third move that'll help Anthony Richardson turn into the next Josh Allen. We're going to re-sign Julian Blackmon to a 3-year, $27 million deal, and we're going to sign Javon Holland to a 4-year, $64 million deal. First of all, I'm talking about defensive changes to help a young quarterback. It should be obvious, and I talked about it a little bit before, but a better defense means more opportunities for the ball for a young quarterback, and it puts less pressure on someone like Richardson, who isn't as polished of a thrower right now, to have less must-throw situations, which the defense put him in a good amount last year. Because this is where the Colts defense ranked last year. 29th in total yards, 26th in pass yards, 23rd in rush yards, 24th in points per game, 25th in sacks, and 28th in pass yards per attempt. So why not go get maybe the best DB on the market in Javon Holland, who will help this secondary that was getting toasted last year. Holland had a bit of a down year last year and has kind of went great year to solid year for his 4-year career so far, where in 2023, PFF had him ranked as the third best safety in all of football, being great in all aspects of the game, top 10 in coverage grade, top 10 in tackling grade, while finishing 11th in run grade, and did a really good job forcing incompletions, especially when working from the slot. Those numbers slipped a little bit last year for Holland, but he still ranked the third best free agent in the 2025 class by PFF, so bringing in this version of Holland that is well paid and has something to prove in Indy, along with bringing back Julian Blackmon, who's a Swiss Army knife in the Colts defense, basically playing wherever they need him to go, gives them a big-time safety duo that we've seen Lou Anarumo defenses covet in the past. Where it was Jesse Bates and Von Bell in Cincinnati, now it could be Javon Holland and Julian Blackmon in Indianapolis. Those two, with the defensive line we just improved, we could see a lot of sacks, pressures, and turnovers from this defense, which is a huge benefit when you're trying to develop your young quarterback. But I get it. This is not what y'all came here to listen to. You want offensive moves to help Anthony Richardson turn into the quarterback he's supposed to be, right? The fourth move that'll turn Anthony Richardson into the next Josh Allen is to rework the offensive line. We're going to cut Braden Smith and then re-sign Will Freeze and Ryan Kelly while drafting Cameron Williams in the second round. Don't get me wrong, even with no moves, the offensive line is still a solid unit. They ranked 12th last year in the NFL per PFF. The left side with Ryman and Nelson was great. PFF had them both top 8 at their respective positions last year, but the right side struggled. And center Ryan Kelly is a free agent. So what do they do? I know Tanner Bortolini played well while Kelly missed 7 games last year with multiple injuries, but Kelly is still really good. 11th ranked center last year per PFF. Over the last 3 years, he has the 4th lowest pressure rate among centers as well. Kelly is someone that you don't need to bring back if you're Indy, but it's in your best interest of your young quarterback. I think a 1 or 2 year deal at $9 to $12 million average annual value gets it done for Kelly. Another guy to sign in your quarterback's best interest is your right guard, Will Fries, because before going down to a season-ending fractured fibula in week 5, he was graded even better than Quentin Nelson, the Colts' future Hall of Fame left guard. Fries is someone who's gotten better each and every year. And even coming off a serious lower body injury, he's turning just 27 soon. So I think you lock him up for the foreseeable future. I say 4 years, $64 million for Fries to keep him in Indy, and you now have your interior line set and have a nice backup for any spot in Bortolini. I love that unit for the Colts. But now this offensive line has a lot of money invested into it, and we need to make another move to clear some cap space. This one hurts, but it needs to be done. Cutting franchise cornerstone right tackle Braden Smith sounds a little bit crazy on its surface because he's been really, really good as a Colt for the past 7 seasons, but he's missed 12 games over the last 2 years, including 5 last year with personal issues. Sounds like he wants to play this year, but last year there was some slippage in his game. He ranked just 44th of 81 qualified tackles per PFF last year, and he would save them $16.75 million on this year's cap if they released him, as he's on the last year of a 4-year, $70 million extension. Again, it might hurt, but this release basically pays for Fries, and in a draft that's deep at offensive line, especially tackle, I think it's good for both parties to get a reset and start over a bit. So that's what they both do, and I mentioned the draft is deep with tackles, so let's go get the right tackle of the future for the Colts. In the second round, I'm grabbing Cameron Williams out of Texas for the Colts. Colts have a good luck with second round right tackles lately. See Braden Smith's first 6 years, and now someone like Cameron Williams can slide into that role for the future. He's got a massive frame and strong hands, so he's shown the ability to dominate and throw around defenders, especially in the run game, but he has some kinks to iron out, especially with speed rushers. I do think someone like Cameron Williams, with his power in an offense that's going to be run heavy with Anthony Richardson Richardson and Jonathan Taylor in the backfield could help solve the right side of the offensive line for Indianapolis and bring this back to being an easy top 10 offensive line, pushing top 5 in 2025. Before I get to my fifth move, if you like these type of videos, do me a huge favor and subscribe. Us as a collective here at Between the Uprights have a ton more content coming your way, especially for this offseason. We've got drafts, free agency, predictions, hot takes, whatever you want as long as it's related to the NFL. So if you want more of this, subscribe and we got you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. It's time for my final and most important moves for the Colts to turn Anthony Richardson into the next Josh Allen and an MVP caliber player, and that is to draft Tyler Warren in the first round and to draft Jaden Blue in the fourth round. The Colts already have solid weapons. They don't need wide receivers. You got Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, and A.D. Mitchell. That's a good young wide receiver core. You have Jonathan Taylor, who's a stud running back. He had 1,400 yards in 14 games last year, and he went off down the stretch. However, for some reason, PFF graded Jonathan Taylor the second worst running back in football. 58th out of 59 graded running backs, which I normally like PFF's ratings, but they are tripping with that one, and they be tripping with running back rankings in general a lot of the time. Despite that grade, you have a stud running back in Indianapolis and Jonathan Taylor. That's your workhorse, but you don't have a true receiving or third down back behind him, and Taylor himself is not a great pass catching back. So I say in the fourth round, go get the best third down running back in the draft in Jaden Blue. Anyone who has watched Texas knows what Jaden Blue is capable of. Ewers was looking for him a lot of the time in the pass game, and he made a lot of plays. They split him out. They threw him screens, a bunch of big wheel routes out of the backfield, especially in the college football playoff. He made plays his entire career in the pass game, and I think Blue is the perfect complement to Taylor in that Colts backfield. But to the big move in this year's draft, the Colts have the 14th overall pick. 2025 is a very solid tight end draft. A lot of quality prospects to look at and to get excited about. But free agency as far as tight ends goes is horrible. Zach Ertz and Mike Gesicki are probably the best free agent options, and the Colts need a tight end upgrade badly. Tight end group was awful for the Colts last year. Less than 500 yards combined between their top two tight ends. Tyler Warren would solve that issue in a big way for Indianapolis. He's 6'6", 257, an elite pass catcher and playmaker in the pass game. All you need to do is go back and watch his game versus USC last year to show you why he is worthy of this pick. Unbelievably dominant performance, and it was one of many leading to the 2024 Mackey Award-winning season, voted the best college football tight end. Warren's smart. He's got a high IQ. He's big. He's athletic. He's got route running ability. And he's tough. His toughness and competitiveness are infectious. This guy is going to be a game changer in today's NFL. Penn State used him in a lot of different ways as well, and he dominated in all of them. It seems like he can play inline tight end at the next level and have an immediate impact on this Colts tight end room that was completely unproductive last year. Now, was the reason they didn't have a good tight end and running back receiving game production-wise because they weren't good at either spot, or because Anthony Richardson loved to yeet the ball downfield as far as possible most of the time? Maybe we have a chicken or the egg situation there. Either way, this year you're going to find out. After this season, with the offensive line, wide receivers, running backs, and Tyler Warren combined with the defense that we approved, it leaves Anthony Richardson with no excuses. Anthony Richardson is going to have to show up in 2025 to be the quarterback that he is capable of being and turn himself into the next Josh Allen of the league and be one of the league's biggest stars. I'm Matt from Between the Uprights, and that's going to be it for me. Peace.